This is the Bad Batch podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're chatting about the Bad Batch finale, episode 16, Kamino Lost.
This is what happens when you let a kid call the shots.
That kid saved your life. Unlike the Empire, who left you for dead.
That's your problem, Hunter. You take things too personally.
They destroyed an entire city.
They did what needed to be done. Kamino, Rex, the Republic, that time is over. The Empire will control the entire galaxy, and I am going to be a part of it. Hunter, you made the wrong choice.
Don't fool yourself. All you'll ever be to them is a number.
Welcome back, fellow troopers, to TV Podcast Industries. This is the Bad Batch podcast, and we're looking at Star Wars, The Bad Batch, episode 16, the finale, Kamino Lost. I'm one of your galactic hosts, John.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
And rounding out this trio of stormtrooping, Bad Batch loving heroes podcasters, I am Chris.
We are at the finale of season 1 of The Bad Batch.
We certainly are.
16 weeks of The Bad Batch of Star Wars. Our first time into Star Wars. Only our second animation of the year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, lots of new things that we were doing with this series.
Yeah,
TV podcast.
Definitely. But fellow troopers, we are just moving into our third podcast on an animated series with Marvel Studios' What If. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in animation, if you're interested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in color and pencils and in animation, then you can also check on out our Marvel What If coverage over at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast and pick any good or evil podcast player of your choice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. It is on Disney Plus, so you already have that. We know that because you watch the Bad Batch on there. So, you can also watch What If and join us over there. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with your thoughts. Even if you want to email us about the Bad Batch season 1, any of your overall thoughts, email us there. We'd love to hear from you too.
And because it is the ending of the season, we'd love that if you like what you've heard, you want to support us going into season 2, into the What If universe, as we cover the MCU, as we lean forward into why The Last Man. I'm not saying YWHY The Last Man, it's why the letter The Last Man. It's confusing, but we'll explain it all in the series as we talk about it. Mm-hmm. If you want to know what else we have coming up this year, just this year alone, jump over to episode 600 podcast, where we break it all down. We go through it. And if you like what you hear, feel free to support us. We'd love it with just a single intergalactic credit. You can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, where, as I said, for a single galactic credit, or, anything that's kind of under the table, maybe some spice. Who knows? You got spice? Who knows? You can support us, help keep the engines running, the hamsters spinning, and you can also help keep our illustrious podcast director, producer, editor extraordinaire, Derek, in coffee by going on over to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI, where you can literally buy him a coffee as he toils into the wee hours as John and I sun ourselves in the LCD bathed moonlight that is other TV shows while he sits in the office typing away.
I was wondering about your scientific knowledge there, Chris, sunbathing at night.
I know, yeah. It's bathing in LCD, It's like if I put a fake sun up, it almost like I'm outside is the real thing. My screen is that big.
Yes, and of course you can always support us by subscribing, but importantly, sharing the podcast to share the love as well. But let us get into our spoiler-filled review. Derek, what are some of the episode details for this finale of the Bad Batch series?
Absolutely. For the final time, executive producers of this show are Brad Rao and Jennifer Corbett. This episode was written by Jennifer Corbett, and the episode was directed once again by Saul Ruiz. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. With a hail of laser fire raining down from Vice Admiral Rampart's Venator-class starships, the cloning facilities of Kamino crack apart. With the Kaminoan facility breaking apart around them, the Bad Batch, their new droid AZ, and a sour Crosshair have to make it to their ship, the Havoc Marauder, to escape. Making their way from the central buildings to Nolasay's private lab is fraught with danger. Separated by blast doors from the Bad Batch and with seawater rapidly encroaching in their enclosed chamber, Omega struggles to free Crosshair, trapped under a fallen rebar. Using her ingenuity, she manages to free him and reunites with her team. As they reach the lab, where they were all previously cloned and experimented on, the disintegrating facility detaches and falls to the bottom of the Kaminoan ocean. To free themselves from a watery grave, the team use their original testing tubes and, guided by AZ, float themselves to the surface. When AZ and Omega are trapped trying to escape, Crosshair uses his Deadshot skills to save them. Finally reaching their destination, the Bad Batch offers to take Crosshair with them, but he refuses. Omega pleads with him, saying he is a brother to them all, but Crosshair's mind is made up. Kamino, the Republic, Regulation clone troopers and the Bad Batch are over. In their place, the Empire will rise, and he will be a part of it. With his faith in the Empire, he stays behind, hoping to be rescued by Imperial scouts, while the Bad Batch board their ship and leave. Meanwhile, on another world, Kaminoan lead cloning scientist Nala Se is delivered to a new Imperial base, and the Empire has many new projects that require her expertise.
Excellent. Certainly an episode fraught with danger and tension throughout, but I'll definitely point out that this is exactly what I said would happen last week.
It certainly is.
Not realising it. I think, Chris, you were talking about it as well, saying you kind of hoped that they got separated, and I said the entire episode would then just be the whole batch trying to get back together and get back to the Havoc Marauder, and that is pretty much what happened. I didn't believe that was what was going to happen. I kept hearing from people that there were going to be some big moment in the episode where some big character from the Star Wars universe would appear, but this does stay really closely on our Bad Batch characters and on their relationship with Crosshair for the finale of the season, which I think in the end was a good choice. Personally, I think that it was a really good episode, keeping it tight on these major characters.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought it was definitely a solid episode. I was, unlike yourself, I did think we were going to be sort of taken off Kamino relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. But no, all the action here on Kamino at the facility. So I just wondered how that was going to play out when it began to, when I realized ultimately that it was them escaping the destruction of what Rampart had done in terms of the destruction of this facility. So yeah, I thought ultimately it was really solid, and in the end I loved a number of choices that they did here for this last episode, and it certainly fits into I guess what very recently was described as the Game of Thrones ending to the season, where actually it's the penultimate episode that has the big wham bam, and you have then in the final episode almost a bit of it's kind of the wrapping up. It's maybe not quite as high octane as the penultimate one, so it kind of took on that kind of feel for these last two episodes.
As an episode, it was great. This had to have been midway through, mid-season, potentially even, where it's that it kind of they were split off at the midpoint, and this was them kind of fully going their way, and then it would have been fantastic. This feels to me they thought they were getting one or two more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the last episode. The penultimate felt more like the season finale. The stakes were raised, and this feels like maybe it was a two-parter. Maybe it was like it is a two-parter, but maybe it was supposed to be shown together as this kind of overarching, you go up, you go up, you go up, and then it's a slight, but this just felt with the gap of a week, I'm not going to lie, I feel slightly deflated based on the ending, because I was just like, the post-credit, I was expecting that then to be, and here's why you cannot wait for season 2, and it kind of just setting up a potential bit of a thing for season 2. It's not like this. It wasn't like Darth Maul walking out, or it wasn't like a really well, as you said, a well-known Star Wars character being introduced or into what will be the Bad Batch season 2. Like it was just, it felt like it's either missing something, or they didn't know they were getting a season 2, and they were just trying to level set back to like ground zero to go, okay, here's everything, and if we get a season 2, this is grand, this will be where our pieces are on the chessboard.
I think there was no doubt they were getting a season 2. That there was no question over that when they were coming up to particularly getting to the end of this season. They certainly knew they were getting a season 2. I think you are right though, Chris. I think it said, when it was released last week, episode 15 was released. That was part 1 of a 2-part finale. This week, part 2 of a 2-part finale. So I think it was quite likely that those 2 episodes were supposed to air on the same day, the same way the first episode was actually the first 3 episodes all airing on the same day. So that's why the numbers seem off. The numbers of episodes for the season of 16 episodes, that's why it seems off, because the first 3 episodes were all aired in the same day as episode 1. So you're probably right on that, but they definitely knew they had the season 2 by the time they'd written this finale and put it together, without a doubt. I don't think they open and shut studios that easily, within Lucasfilm. I think they know they've got something here, particularly in those first half of the season, with the amount of work going into developing the characters and developing the models. I think it's unlikely that they weren't going to go on to a season 2.
I think also just everything you said, Chris, I think, that week gap, I guess, just puts a different spin on this. But I do also think that as a final episode, in terms of the story or the premise of this show around the Bad Batch, which effectively it is, ripped apart with the loss of Crosshair, finding their feet again. I think this very much was about the resolution of that story. So in that sense, it is a fitting finale and being done in the burnt out chamber, I guess, of the Kamino facility.
Where they all started.
I think it's just, as you say, with the week's break, you detach from it, and you're waiting for the next one. And I guess, I think together they probably, it would have felt very different, because it would have maintained the
momentum,
the whole momentum. And I think, moving on to our blaster point 1 around traversing and the destruction of Kamino, and building on what I've just said, this opens up really nicely with Vice Admiral Rampart. It's so atmospheric. I mean, almost too dark, but so atmospheric, with this continued barrage of laser fire from the ships, and just his sort of objective detachment as a member of the Imperial Navy. It just feels so cold and everything when you see what's happening. So, it really does follow straight on, and then into this whole, sort of escape of the Bad Batch, carrying an unconscious Crosshair, picking up, AZ, to try and traverse this Kamino that is just being destroyed, and beginning to fall apart and disintegrate. And I just thought that in as well was epic. Some of the shots here were just epic, like the underwater shots, all of that really, just the big spaces that they did, even within the Kamino facility, I thought were really good.
Yeah, absolutely. God, all season we've been saying how good the animation has been in this show, and I think this episode is fantastic for that. For those scenes, there's so many great scenes. But just quickly to go back to Rampart and his coldness on the Venator class starship. Did anybody else notice the stormtrooper that came up to tell him that the planet's being destroyed? And he does look much more like the regular stormtroopers that we saw early on in the season. Looks very similar. But I thought I detected a little bit of sadness in his voice when he was saying the entire facility on Kamino has been destroyed. You could almost see that his head was hanging a little bit by this idea that it's being destroyed. And I think that's kind of a touch to the fact that he's not a clone. He's a higher trooper like the rest of the stormtroopers. But anybody else notice that with the stormtrooper?
Yeah, definitely. I noticed the evolution even in quite a short space of time, although it's probably just a different trooper of actually a fully formed stormtrooper, as you say, like you would have seen in A New Hope, compared to the ones we saw in that secret facility where they were being trained, which I guess just gave that nod to Ralph McQuarrie's design originally for the stormtroopers. So that was kind of really, really interesting. And the kind of the hesitancy in his voice, I think, in relaying the status.
The entire facility's destroyed. Yeah.
I took it as, are we the bad guys?
Exactly.
We've come back to that joke quite a lot this season, but it is because we are seeing the formative years of the Empire. Literally, the formative days, months of the Empire.
Mm-hmm. As they form, as they create everything, that we know.
Yeah, and just seeing like the introduction of what we class as the OG stormtroopers. Mm-hmm. Seeing these people going, oh God, like the facility's been destroyed.
Yeah.
That is just like, we've just committed somewhat. I was going to say genocide, but that's probably not. But no, because no one in there, so it's more just complete and total destruction of this momentous piece in history in the Republic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because that's it. Like the planet Kamino is an ocean planet. There's no structures on it other than what was built there by the Kaminoans, and they've just sent some bombs down and blown it up, and off they go. Kind of thing. So
yeah, I'm gonna reverse the clock back. I'm so that opening shot, as you said, with the Star Destroyers. I want that.
Mm-hmm.
I want, if we were still doing stills. If you could still buy stills, that's what I would want in front of it. Just the dark grey, the swirling clouds, the shooting lights, or the lightning, I should say. Yeah. Just that is the Emmy award winning animation kind of graphic design
Hope
piece.
So. Yeah.
It's so atmospheric. I mean,
That's
really
the
is.
word, yeah. Because it is
they're literally in the atmosphere, but it's also atmospheric in the other sense as well.
Rain lashing against the windows, you can see the barrage of the barrels firing down on the planet. Everything is just so well put together in that scene. Yeah.
The only bit that we touched on the odd time throughout the season, and it was just more this opening scene that got the hair standing up on my arms, was the composition. Just the choice of the what we well know now as the kind of Imperial sound, the ka-ting of the guns firing. Obviously, that's quite lower. My ka-ting is it's kind of like pew 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 pew. It's just out of key completely. But that just sounds...
You can't even get the note of blaster fire correct.
Oh no, Chris. No. My blaster fire is pew 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 pew. Anyway, that just the composition, the sound design for this just opening scene, leading to the echoes of the sound in the chambers where we meet the Bad Batch, of the water dripping, of them shouting, and when skipping slightly, when Omega is trying to fire her bow caster to save Crosshair, you hear it reverberate.
Yep.
And it could be just I love my TV, I love my surround sound system, and it was on the right hand side of my sound system.
Right.
It was designed that it traveled from the right back, and I could hear it move. And that's probably maybe because I haven't watched many of the episodes in that room for a while, but just hearing the soundscape, you get that with the great surround sound. I was not expecting with great surround sound in a show like this.
It's so good.
Just because you would expect just standard kind of run-of-the-mill animated kind of shows. This is just above. And thinking of it, I shouldn't have been surprised. It is LucasArts. Absolutely. They are one of the OGs for kind of sound design and like special effects and everything.
Absolutely. And remember, they've got studios for specifically making great sound design, and they're in the business of this as well. They have so many seasons of the Clone Wars before this as well. Yes. So they know how to make this stuff good. And if you've been watching this on your phone or if you're watching it on your laptop, watch it on the biggest screen you have in your home every time and try and get the best quality version of it, because it always looks great. But this episode, definitely the atmosphere that's in there, I felt really tense throughout the episode. And I think, to refer back again to last week, I think I specifically said, we know they're not in any danger. We know their ship is there. We know they just have to get there, and they will. And that is basically what happened in the episode. But there is a lot of tension because I do feel they set it up quite well that anybody could go at any time. There's multiple moments throughout the episode where you could have had somebody fall through a hole and you'd never see them again, or somebody die and they have to go on. So they did have the tension there, which I didn't think was going to be there since we knew there was an escape route.
Well, there was so much stuff sort of falling from the sky or falling through the ocean. It's the reason why Crosshair had to be saved by Omega, because he had a big iron bar across him that he had been trapped by. I think he was still unconscious as well. As they're escaping back up to where the Havoc Marauder is, using their kind of cloning tubes, that there's all that debris falling through. It almost takes out Omega and AZ as well. So all of these different situations are just really, really perilous. You just thought, okay, one of them is going to get it here. I mean, I really... It wasn't, as we got towards the end where I thought, it could be AZ's time to, go effectively. Yep. But to that, I think as well, you've seen a real development in Omega across this series, from sort of opening up that cloning tube and chamber to go and rescue AZ, but also how, rescuing Crosshair using her bow, and AZ to get him free, and even given responsibility to, dare I say it, blow the bloody doors off when they actually initially do the escape with the birthing tubes or the cloning tubes. And I thought she was really really good here. I mean, I like the kind of little nod that Crosshair said, when did you put her in control or as the lead in the team? I thought that was really good. And then, she's also just really sage at the moment where they have escaped. But I think we'll come to that in Blaster Point 2. Yeah. So she's done a lot of growing up, but we also now know that is technically older than the Bad Batch.
I'm so glad they confirmed that, because we were speculating about that last week. We wondered whether it was a couple of weeks or a couple of years or anything like that. She even says here, I was alone for that whole time down here in the lab before you guys were brought in. That's why she thinks of them as her brothers. It's that she was there for a long time before they came down. So she is possibly 5 to 6 years older, or maybe even older than that. Just significantly older than the rest of the batch. She's been around a lot longer and was alone until they came in. So I'm really glad they confirmed it in that dialogue.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Anything else about the escape from and traversing across Kamino that you want to talk about, Chris?
No, not very much. For me, it was just quite a fun escape attempt, if you will. It was just their choices were not what I would have thought. Usually you kind of go, get up, 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 and there's like, no, we need to get up and across. Because throughout most of it, I was like, why not just float on the surface of the sea and swim? That was just the part of me that was always, why not just try and get up and then go over versus going down, under, and up again? And that was the bit I was like, Okay, because it's good storytelling.
Well, I
That's why.
think they were trying to do that for sure, but I mean, it's that first point where they get separated by the blast doors,
Yeah.
and it's so destroyed they actually can't get out, and that's where Tech says there's another another route that we can take. Plus, I guess they would have to swim, and still at that time, Crosshair's all unconscious, being carried. But I did like the fact that Tech's route does take them to their old quarters, so they've got the little tally marks going on to show that. So I thought that was all really, really good, and I think
it was definitely really, really good. Yeah, but I also loved what's being added to it the whole time is that the building that they're in is collapsing into the water, so everything's going diagonally at a time. So you're right, Chris. They should be trying to get to the surface of the water, but everything's collapsing into the water and they're being dragged down below. And I love that rooms that they're in are spinning, they're turning as it's falling towards the ground. They have to wait for a moment as they're hanging off the tubes effectively as that's turning, and they have to wait for a moment for it to settle down before they're able to make their next move. So everything's playing into their plan, and their original plan was just simply to try and get back to that tube that took them directly to the platform where they were able to take off. So I do love that while they should have been making a basic plan just to get out into the water, they were making a strategic plan to get somewhere safe, and everything was against them the whole way across. Even the idea of when they're going through the tube and they have that giant whale creature, the AWAS, I think it's called, that attacks them when they're in the tube and effectively is trying to crack through the tube with its teeth until they get out in time. All of those things just adding to the tension. That was cool.
Agreed, because that was the one for me where it was all moving, because they were like slowly walking at an incline. Mm-hmm. And then they were literally climbing, and then they were back to walking. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. That was a nice way of showing it.
Yeah. I have to say as well, loved the scene as the facility plummets to the bottom of the ocean, and you see it turning, as you say, but where they're all hanging on.
Yeah.
And then as it hits the bottom, the camera cuts back to the corridor that's now, is effectively vertical. And you see the jolt of that and them desperately trying to hang on to, the bits of metal that they've, grabbed onto. And I thought that was a real movie shot, actually, that they did. Just the way that sequence of shots was done felt epic and really as though it was straight out of a movie. Yeah. I thought it was really, really good for me.
Yeah.
But I think moving on to Blaster Point 2,
yes,
which is all about the Hunter versus Crosshair, really. It's this idea, as we see all the way through, Crosshair looks like he's just been eating lemons, basically, all the way through. And it really just starts the moment, Crosshair, wakes up from having been knocked out. Mm-hmm. And, I to begin with, it was just really, he just says, "What have you done?" As though all the chaos, like they put so many explosive devices around the facility that it was all their fault, because he had no idea that effectively Rampart had ordered the destruction from the air. So thought that was really good, and it was
has worked with the Bad Batch before. He does know how much destruction they can do.
No, exactly.
Like, this is your fault.
But just there's so much sort of prodding and poking between these two. But I did think, this was really this antagonism between the two, following on from the last episode, was really good. And ultimately at its heart, again, it's that Crosshair wants to be with the Empire and join it and possibly rise in the same way through the ranks of the army, in the same way that the Empire is rising throughout the galaxy. That's where he's pinned his colors to. Yeah. Even though, he's got no inhibitor chip. And for Hunter, it's, we're giving you the choice now, or you can choose if you want to come. I think immediately after, that first volley of exchanges between the two, Hunter just says, "We're getting out of here. You can come with us if you want. Yep. It's your choice." It's all about giving Crosshair back the choice to maybe come back with them. And certainly that's echoed with Amiga's sort of longing to have Crosshair back in the Bad Batch, actually. Yeah. She makes the point that they are your brothers. After she's saved him and after they've gotten onto the platform where the Havoc Marauder is. And I think it just previously to Amiga, she's just, you really see the growth in the character throughout this series. Yeah. And I thought that was exceptional stuff, to be honest.
Absolutely. I love the way this is written into the episode as well, because we haven't had much time with Crosshair and the Bad Batch together in this series. And I love that we do get those moments of tension all the way across. Every time they stop, there's a moment where Crosshair has something bad to say to Hunter, something about, why are you letting this child lead us? And then something goes wrong and he goes, "That's because you let a child lead you." So he's really picking at Hunter being the leader. So I wonder if just overall, if the tension between the two of them is that Crosshair feels he would be a better leader for the team and doesn't trust any of Hunter's decisions anymore because Hunter made that choice in his mind to move away from the Empire. I wonder if that's part of the tension between the two.
I think there's definitely an element there. I just think that anything they do will be annoying Crosshair because it's not leading to what he wants, which is ultimately the Bad Batch returning with him to the Empire. Yeah. Because good soldiers follow orders. Mm-hmm. And
exactly.
They are not following the orders, and they never will anymore. Well, not the Empire's orders.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what it's going to end up continuing to be.
Yeah. But I do like that we had the other members of the batch also kind of contributing to this argument and discussion. We have Wrecker putting in his spoke, and Crosshair has a few choice words for him as well, going, is there something small going on in that tiny little brain of yours? And Wrecker's effectively saying his disappointment. He's just airing his disappointment. And we have a little bit of Tech defending, sort of, or at least explaining who Crosshair is, saying Crosshair has always been severe and unyielding. It's in his nature. You can't change that. He can't change that. That's who he is. And I love Crosshair going, "Thanks for defending me." And Tech, of course, saying he's not. That's just simply who he is. That's just facts and details.
I really liked that actually from Tech. I thought, just summing up his assessment of Crosshair. Exactly. I thought it was really good.
Exactly. And again, smartly from the writers, Echo kept out of the conversation because Echo recently joined the Bad Batch. It doesn't have the same brotherly relationship between the rest of them. So Echo kind of kept separate from those conversations, which I think is a really good choice and kind of stands out in its own way, even though he's silent.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, it has to.
I thought it was really funny though, just, with the emotional kind of ending, certainly with Hunter saying that Crosshair could come and him making his choice, and Amiga kind of in her own way trying to persuade him to come as well. I did kind of giggle to myself when effectively then it's like later they just take off and leave him on this platform. Hopefully it doesn't submerge back down. Hopefully that mechanism's not still operating.
True, yes, true.
Because otherwise he's in the drink.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really kind of just it was just funny. And
it's not like you see somebody's one of the Batch or Amiga's face pressed against the window, waving goodbye. It was like, okay, we're getting
okay, right, we're off. And the other one as well was the destruction of Kamino, and I think it's just after it's fallen and it's outside, the windows of Nolasay's lab, and there's, things falling down and that, and there were just 3 fish swimming past the window, and all I could think of was like Dory, kind of just keep swimming, because otherwise they're going to get hit or something. move along, nothing's happened kind of thing. And I just thought
that's the lives of Terrans, or the lives of the other species on this planet.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this wasn't here 3 seconds ago, forget about it, keep on swimming. It was just really funny, and I guess it was a deliberate choice just to have 3 sort of normal-sized fish kind of swimming past all this destruction. But yeah, it was, they were quite amusing to me, I think.
Excellent. I've just got one more thing about this point. I love the moment when Crosshair helps out to save Omega. I think it's a really good moment because we have a couple of things in it. We have him taking his gun, which we've seen many times before, but him taking his weapon and from our perspective pointing it at Hunter, and Hunter thinking that's what he's doing, that he's taking the opportunity to kill him. We see in the background the rest of the batch think the same thing because both Tech and Wrecker have their guns trained on Crosshair in case he does pull the trigger.
That was a nice moment.
I think that's really well, I was going to say film, but really well animated, that whole scene, because the tension is all still there. I will say though, I thought we were never going to see AZ again, particularly when Crosshair does his saving move of shooting his weapon into the water to hit AZ and drag up Omega and AZ. I thought he was basically using a crossbow bolt, effectively, that was going through and piercing the shell of AZ. I thought it was like, we have actually said goodbye. It was literally until right at the end when Omega says to him, thanks for saving AZ, I went, oh, okay. The droid's still alive. I thought he was totally dead.
Yep.
Well, he did get a harpoon into the chest, so I guess he's a little damaged.
It's a sticky substance or a sucker that's put on top of him to attract him back up, but it's not a harpoon through his body, which is what I thought it was.
Yeah, so did I.
No, I think we've seen them before. The kind of bolts that it's like electromagnetic that just stick to any of the droids and things like that.
Okay, I thought you meant me personally. I was like, I've never been in that situation. Thank God.
I thought he was Gunner throughout this episode until they said those words. I was like, all right, they're writing him off.
Yeah.
Like, we've just got him, and they're like, nah, no.
Because we were laughing when we were watching it the second time, because he keeps dropping lines about the fact that his batteries are dying. He's using up his batteries. He's now tapped into his excess battery in the back there. So, I'm not long for this world is very much what keeps being said over and over again. And then it does look like he sacrifices himself. Great moment. And then drops off into the drink. Omega goes to save him, but it just does feel like that. And then I had the other thing in my mind. We do have another droid aboard the Havoc Marauder, which is Gonki.
Gonki!
As we know. And effectively, Gonki's only function is to be a battery. And AZ is no longer a battery. Are we going to have a merged Gonki and AZ next season? Are we going to have AZ Gonk?
It's like robot Frankenstein.
There you go. Yeah. The head of AZ stuck onto the top of Gonki's body.
That'd be hilarious.
There you go. Don't let me design
with the repulsor things.
Yeah, it's still going. Yeah. It's just like, this is why we're not allowed to design stuff.
No, exactly. But I think moving on to Blaster Point 3 and Nala Se, and just keeping that thread of design, because I definitely think the Imperial Army really needs to win some design awards here, because the facility that they take Nala Se to, and you see the craft coming in to land. Mm-hmm. Wow, I just thought again, another cool Imperial facility. I mean, I really need to kind of check myself here, because I'm beginning to think that maybe I've got a thing for authoritarian design or something. What was the one previously, the secret one? But I was just like, oh, this is brilliant. I'd love for our labs to be in that, somewhere like that. That would be cool.
Kind of feel that unless you're you're part of the Imperial Army or a James Bond villain, you don't get to build your labs.
No, exactly. It's a real shame.
But why not?
I know.
That is the
really
question.
Reduces the impact on the landscape.
Yeah. Like, I want my lab in a hollowed out volcano. Or even an active volcano, because then you get central heating.
Yeah, like Vader's semi-detached. It's basically built over it's kind of way extravagant and built over a lava waterfall. I mean, it's like, wow, these guys know how to build.
Semi-detached, like it's even referred to as Vader's castle.
I know, I'm joking.
I know.
I'm sure, the Empire, their sort of house building program would have just a load of kind of, semi-detached type and, dormer bungalows and, for townhouses right next to, like a lava river for no reason.
I don't think they continue to bring on people, if they did that.
Cut to the internal of the Death Star where you have the architect for the Galactic Empire going, yes, baby, I'm going to build it for you. Give me lava. Give me hollow a mountain. We're going to hollow a mountain. We're going to add some steel. We're going to get AT-AT, if you will. And it's just like really flamboyant. And he's like, no, just give me the normal. No. We're hollowing.
Yeah, this is going to be built in the place so that you never get over your PTSD, Lord Vader. You'll be constantly reminded of the agony that you went through by having all 4 limbs chopped off or burnt off.
And then he literally turns around and goes, now you shall have the high ground.
But anyway, let us move on from our distractions here because... yeah, Nala Se has a new position in a massively cool and massive Imperial facility, and they've certainly got a work plan lined up for her.
I was really distracted looking at the scene. I kept thinking it was the same planet that we were on last time, the other Imperial facility that we saw in the past. But as you say, that was in kind of a hollowed out mountain, whereas is 2 individual mountains that we see that have these cool, leveled buildings, inside. Like it looks completely different the second time I watched it the first time. Just because the planet's really green and colourful, which we haven't seen that many of those in this season of The Bad Batch. So I thought they were the 2 same planet, but it may be, as you say. It did look different, but, definitely Nala Se not very happy about being in this position once again, is what that looked like to me.
Yeah, I couldn't tell because she looks like that all the time.
She looked unhappy.
She's more eyes than sort of facial expressions.
I felt like her eyes were telling me that she was unhappy in this position, that she was kind of stuck here.
I've always thought she's had kind of sad eyes,
Okay.
But I think...
I'm projecting is what you're saying.
But I think what we know about scientists being involved with the Empire is that they're very, very, very rarely there because they want to be.
That's very true.
So it seems like Nala Se's already got her science minder with all the sort of communication stuff around her ears. A bit like the guy from Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like she's got a minder, to be honest. But, they have massive plans for her, plenty of projects, love her scientific talent, and I guess she's going to do bad things in this cool facility.
Yes. Now, no confirmation, but we did speculate that there is one particular bad thing that is to do with cloning and is in the Star Wars universe that she could be working on from this point onwards, basically, which is the cloning of Palpatine.
Yeah, or his longevity, because like even just seeing with Omega that she's older than the Bad Batch, yet considerably younger in appearance.
Yep, if they can age them up, they can possibly stop aging as well. Yes.
Who needs anti-aging cream?
Well, that's it. And it would fit into the whole Sith Jedi, that idea of the certainly the Sith, that the longevity, the power, being able to sort of stretch through time and across the galaxy by the fact that it's still, Palpatine, the Sith Lord, they're doing it. So, I mean, yeah, she's probably, not got the best boss to work for, but nonetheless, they'll be interesting. I guess that's the intrigue. That's the tee up, isn't it? Really, for the next season. I guess. Well, to some extent, I mean, at least for Nala Say's character, and
Exactly,
and
I agree on that.
and the development, like we were saying, how the development of seeing that transition from the Republic to the Empire, and this will be more of it. This will kind of be feeding into that, but it will be, Sid is still around. We know that there's Rex and all. So there's a lot of things there, that can be, sort of drawn upon for a season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the big things that is there from these last 2 episodes, the batch have just seen the Empire destroy a planet, destroy a cloning facility on a planet. That's quite a big move from the new Empire that just came out of the ashes of the old Republic, or the new Republic, whichever one it is. So they have that knowledge that they can bring to the rebellion. This is a group that are willing to do quite significantly big moves. They also have all the stuff they've seen on all the individual planets. So potentially that's where the show will go in terms of the Bad Batch themselves in future. But it is an interesting point to leave Nala Say at.
Yeah, I agree. Do you remember the episode, I think it was season 2 of The Mandalorian, where Bill Burr's in that episode, and essentially there is a similar type of base on the planet, where they basically are trying to steal. They have to they drive too fast, they drive too slow, and I'm gonna say unobtainium, but it's not unobtainium. The mineral, if it vibrates too much, it will explode.
Right, yeah.
The base looked quite similar to that.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if it's a precursor.
Maybe, yeah.
And maybe it is to do with something around that in the future, which is there's a mineral on that planet that's needed for cloning, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
It needed 5 lines more. 5 sentences more this scene. For me, it was just, they didn't give the final breadcrumb to kind of just go, oh, now if they had have said Emperor Palpatine is looking forward to working with you, or X, or Y, or just something that just gives you that extra breadcrumb, that morsel just to go, oh my god, and then sets us all going.
Exactly. And even I thought that, I was surprised it did finish there. I thought they were going to go to another shot of maybe seeing the Bad Batch, even whether it was arriving back to Sid's place after that, or to find Rex, or to wherever Rex was. We know they've been having those communications with him in the lead up to this. It could have even been that Rex rescued them in the end, from just bobbing around in the ocean. But I mean, I definitely was surprised it did finish on the Nala Say bit. And I was expecting just to see the Bad Batch again arriving somewhere.
See, I thought it was going to be something different. I thought that because we'd spent the entire episode at the Bad Batch, I was definitely expecting something at the end of the episode, but not the Bad Batch. I think the move to it being Nala Say in the last scene of the episode wasn't a surprise. The fact that it was just effectively saying Nala Say is now working for the Empire, which we knew last episode. We knew that they'd taken her and they were going to put her to work. That's what the surprise was, to your point, Chris. Should they have given us a little bit more lead into what season 2 is going to be at that point? I totally agree with you. But I thought that we were going to get something else. I did think that was the point. If you're going to put another scene after we've seen the Bad Batch leave Kamino for the final time, you should have something else at the end of the episode. I thought there was going to be something else at the end of the episode, potentially Palpatine or something else going on with the Empire. Is what I expected.
Do you remember that scene we had with Fennec Shand? Mm-hmm. I think it was like midway through, just before the midpoint of the season, where you saw her talk to, we didn't know who at that point. And that set us off. That was like, oh my god, do you think she's talking to blah, 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 blah. It was just enough, and it was just enough of a teaser to kind of, this just missed the mark. And I'm not saying it's, because we did just had a lengthy 5-minute discussion, but that's the discussion done. Versus what could have been, because this season 2 probably at this point is at least 2022.
It is 2022. Confirmed 2022. Yeah.
But there you go. That's kind of what I thought about this aspect of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, good stuff.
Absolutely.
Any final notes from this episode?
I just have to call out my favourite line, probably of the entire season, delivered by AZ, when he sees Crosshair being woken up and goes, "Greetings, CT-9904. You've survived the aerial bombardment, but you are now moments away from drowning." Because that is the worst way to wake anybody up.
Yeah.
But it's a great moment for AZ. Really enjoyed that.
Chris, any notes?
For me, it's just, we called it out already, which is just the cutting words that Tech gets in when he says Crosshair has always been severe and unyielding in his nature, and he goes, "I didn't expect you to stand up for me. I'm not standing up for you."
Mm-hmm. It's just your nature. Exactly.
It's just that backhanded, like,
Yeah.
That's our Tech.
away.
Absolutely. No notes for me either. So, guys, Derek, what did you think of this final episode of the first season of Bad Batch?
I've loved this season overall. I mentioned at the start, this is what I jokingly said was how they were going to end the season, that it was going to be them fighting their way to get off the planet. I thought that since they knew the way off, since the ship was right there, we knew it was right there, that it was going to be an easy 5 minutes. And if they extended it to an episode, it would be boring. There wouldn't be enough tension in it. I think they did a brilliant job of racking up the tension in every single room they go through. If you're going to make a video game of the Bad Batch, make this episode into a video game where they have to make their way out of each individual room and fight different battles all the way through. I thought it worked really well. Great tension. Loved it even more the second time I watched the episode. As the season finale, yes, I wanted a little bit more of a touch at the end of the episode. I would have loved to have seen something else at the end of the episode, but we know it's coming back next season, and I'm definitely looking forward to covering the second season of the Bad Batch. How about yourself, Chris? What did you think of the finale of Bad Batch season 1?
I'm a 50-50 on it. It was a fantastic episode as an episode of the Bad Batch. Mm-hmm. As you agreed, like the tension moving from room to room to get to escape was great, and it was well done, and you had the right level of writing and characterizations, and we talked about the soundscape and the design and the tension and the emotions in the every aspect of it, and just the art choices. It's upon the second viewing, it's just the bit that keeps sticking in my craw is that this was the season finale, and it just didn't feel. It felt like what had happened is we moved from a very large, like, emotional racking finale in the previous and penultimate, and it just, the tension and everything just flowed down slightly and ebbed down and just didn't ratchet back up, and then missing the morsel, that extra morsel that I wanted in the post credits. Just for me, meant it felt fantastic episode, so finale. Because of course, I'm 100% in for the season 2 now, coming in after all our discussions. It's just, I'm like, alright, it will come when it comes. I'm not going to sit here and discuss over the next 6 months with you going, but did you know what I thought this could be? I had this amazing idea. That may happen, it will just not happen to the same extent. Mm-hmm. So, I'd say a solid 4 out of 5. Just it could have been a 5 out of 5.
Excellent.
But Johnners, you have introed this episode, so we must move to you last. What did you think of this episode?
I think I have similar opinions to yourself. I think to both of you. I think just wanted a little bit more at the end. It wasn't how I thought it was going to play out, but nonetheless, I thought it was really a solid episode and a solid finale. And I would give this 4 fishes of destruction out of 5. I think, ultimately the premise of this focused on the Bad Batch, potentially coming back together, but ultimately going their separate ways. It brought resolution to the issues by having that time between Hunter and Crosshair. I think it really showed just the change and the development that has occurred with Omega and her role in the Bad Batch. Mm-hmm. I thought the whole escape from Kamino, that final bit of bombardment from the Empire, I thought it was really epic. I thought there was some really good cinematic moments here, in terms of their scale, in terms of just how they move the camera around, as the Bad Batch were trying to hold on, in that corridor that was going from horizontal to vertical. And even there was that explosion moment that you would see in a war film where, your ears are all tingling. You've got that sort of high pitch in your ear. They had that moment as well, in this. So I thought it was, I thought it was really, really good. And certainly, yeah, I'm on board for season 2. So a good old 4 fishes of destruction out of 5 for me.
I like fishes of destruction. That's really good. One thing we didn't really settle on in the episode, I just wanted to talk about it. Now we've all given our thoughts overall on what we think about the episode. But one central thing that happened in the episode is the Bad Batch heading off and leaving Crosshair behind. Do you think they've put it to bed now? Not saying that he could never ever return and join the Bad Batch, but do you think they've put that storyline to bed, that Crosshair is now on one side, former member of the Bad Batch, he's moved on, he's going to join the Empire, and they've given each other a choice, either come back and join us, or you come over and join the Empire.
Definitely.
That storyline is now to bed, really, isn't it?
Yeah. That's not to say, as you say, that Crosshair won't come back to the Bad Batch. Maybe someone feels they need to go to the Empire when they see the comfy beds that they've got. But, who knows? Not being constantly on the run, surviving, fighting for your life all the time. Although, to be honest, Crosshair may also be saying, well, we kind of fall like flies pretty quickly as soon as we get into a laser fight. So, I think there's definitely room for Crosshair to come back in. But I think they can. I think they've established that dynamic, that tension within, and they've resolved it here. In terms of at least for the foreseeable seasons, at least for the next one, where they lie on the Jedi Sith, good versus evil, rebellion, Empire spectrum. So I think, yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. We enter now season 2 with that storyline, as you said, put to bed.
Excellent.
They may flirt with it every now and again. It's like that long lost girlfriend. You see her again. You have a joking hello, a casual look, but you've got your new love. You've got your best friend now beside you in Omega. She is the new member of the Batch. She is not filling Crosshairs, but she is the sister to what was the Band of Brothers.
She's even better. She's not questioning every single thing you do and saying, I could do that better.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, guys. Let's get on to some feedback from our wonderful fellow troopers.
Yes. First off, some feedback sent to us in an email from Paul Robinson. Paul says, hello, fellow troopers. Thank you for having a wonderfully concise podcast about what is growing into one of my favorite TV shows. First of all, please excuse the amount of comments in this email. I didn't find your podcast until a couple of weeks ago and started compiling a list of comments. So this email is going to cover a variety of topics. Sorry if it gets a bit rambly, but feel free to pick and choose the parts you want to talk about. I'll try to keep things brief. Firstly, Omega and Boba do not have inhibitor chips because they are not clones made for the Republic. Boba was made for Jango, and Omega was made for the Kaminoans.
That's right.
Juros, like Cad Bane, are some of the oldest characters in Star Wars. There are 2 Juros talking to each other in the Mos Eisley Cantina, and don't normally have respirators, and do not have gills.
Very good.
Okay,
thanks.
Thirdly, in Common Ground, the planet Raxus is from Force Unleashed, where it is a junk planet. Perhaps this one will be as well.
I should recognise that. I spent about 4 or 5 hours trying to get off that level in the Force Unleashed video game.
I spent 4 or 5 hours trying to get the slide right down one of the sides of a Star Destroyer on that planet. Yeah, But it certainly looks like that, yeah, definitely. Number 4, during the Ryloth episodes, Hera was voiced by Vanessa Marshall, who voiced Hera in Rebels.
Yes, we should have said that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely noticed that, but yeah, I love
that's a great, that's a great call. In Warmantle, the fighters that chase down the Marauder are called V-Wings and are from the prequel movies and usually used as a bomber. In the original Battlefront games, they were the Republic's fighter bomber during the space stages.
Very good.
Good stuff. So yeah, not really prototype TIE fighter, which I think I was mentioning. 6th, there are a slew of references to the video game Republic Commando, which is one of Dave Filoni's and my favourite games. Here are a couple. One of the commandos is designed to look like the character Scorch, and the second one is when Hunter's helmet restarts during Reunion, it is the same hood as in the game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good stuff.
Heads-up display for the non-gamers.
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
And finally, in Legends, the cloning equipment was taken to Wayland. Wayland was listed on a canon map of the galaxy. Wayland is also the planet that Nirogi, which is the species of Rook, who is Thrawn's bodyguard on Rebels. Which is great, yes, the species Rook, I do remember that. It's kind of deadly assassin, really.
Oh, right.
Yeah, really good. I hope this didn't wander too much. Thanks, Paul. Great stuff, Paul. Thanks for those comments. I might have to just check the In Legends episode again, because yes, that could be quite a nice little tie-in to seeing Thrawn eventually in this. It could be really cool.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Paul. It didn't wander too much. Great that you found us during the season of the podcast for the Bad Batch. Hopefully you'll join us for some of our other podcasts in the future as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Paul. And please do join us. If you like the Bad Batch, you may really enjoy Invincible, so please check it out. Over on Facebook, William Walton had this to say. Has Crosshair actually had his chip removed, or did the Empire just tell him they removed it? It doesn't make sense for the Empire to voluntarily remove it from him, or to let him remove it, as it removes their ability to control him the way they really want to. Thanks so much, Will. Yeah, part of me at one point did question this. I was like, if they told him, it's just his utterance of a good soldier follows orders, a good soldier follows orders. It's just his consistency with that. So every now and again, I do question, it's like, did he? Did they? But I think it's just, yes, they did. Yes, he did. And it's just, that is Crosshair.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because we didn't see it happen. And, you know, that spot that he's talking about, you know, given the fact he did have a starship's engine go off in his face and burn him, it could quite easily be the scarring from that. So this idea that maybe he's not entirely clear and he's dependent on what other people, i.e. the Empire or Rampart, has said, then it'll be you know, it's potentially something that could just be something of significance for a particular story or particular moment in his relationship with the Empire or indeed with the Bad Batch. So yeah, kind of interesting there. Yeah, thanks so much, William.
Absolutely. Thanks, William. Dr. Bob Phillips says, a great ending to this season. Crosshair is still on the evil edge of the road, but nothing so far he can't come back. Nalase is the next series rescue mission, and AZ will be back to save the world again. How prescient of them to name the droid after the vaccine that sold at cost in low middle-income countries. There you go. So, AZ, AstraZeneca.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, it was a really good episode. And certainly, I think that putting to bed that you question that you asked, it allows Crosshair, to potentially redeem himself from his Empire choosing ways.
Exactly. He didn't do anything really bad in this episode. He actually was a helper and a saver in this episode. So that's always a good sign. Isn't it?
Exactly. Thanks so much, Bob. Also on Facebook, Victor Sellers said, at first blush, this finale seemed anticlimactic, but the action, drama, and cinematic-like animation have me anticipating season 2. Victor goes on to say, your podcast is a big thumbs up for this season and also for Admiral or Vice Admiral Rampart. He's not a fan. He is that cold, calculated bureaucrat that does a lot of evil.
I think Victor Seller has his emojis spelling out boo, I think is
oh, maybe.
Yeah.
So
not
boo.
Not a fan.
Yeah, boo to Admiral Rampart for sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Victor. Yeah, after this episode, certainly looking forward to season 2. They keep this quality of animation is fantastic. I want to see as much of this in the Star Wars universe as I can because it really lends itself to this kind of animation.
Great.
And our final bit of feedback comes in from Deanna DeBryan Maskell, who says, what a gorgeous finale. So beautiful, poignant and suspenseful. Love AZ's advice to stay alive. As much as I dislike Crosshair, he still breaks my heart. Thanks, Deanna. Agree with you on those points. Definitely love that from AZ, just to stay alive. Really important kind of piece of advice from him. Yeah, Crosshair definitely breaking all of our hearts here when he doesn't take the option to join back up with the Bad Batch and just stares out across the ocean of Kamino.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, fellow troopers, for joining us on our 16 episode soiree into a galaxy far, far away. Mm-hmm. It's been a blast. I've really, really enjoyed it. And certainly it's great having the fellow troopers listening and commenting. It's been great getting your feedback in. As mentioned, we're currently covering another animated series, Marvel's What If. We have just recorded the first episode, but we'll be back for the second episode of Marvel's What If next week as well. But this ultimately brings the end of our Bad Batch coverage for now, and certainly we'll be returning to this galaxy far, far away to soiree some more in the future
in
for the season 2 in 2022.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can't wait for that. And of course, as we move on into the cooler autumn and the chillier winter, we will be there as well with Why the Last Man, also Hawkeye, loads of other stuff as well.
Yes, and we'll be back for Miss Marvel, as well as The Witcher Season 2 in December. For now, thank you so much. Pleasure talking through the Bad Batch Season 1 with you, and we'll be back in Season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots and lots of stuff to cover between now and Bad Batch Season 2. There are 10 other Star Wars shows coming out. Actually, 10 including Season 2 of the Bad Batch. So 9 other Star Wars shows. So you never know, we may be back in a galaxy far, far away with our wonderful fellow troopers before Season 2, but we'll see. We'll speak to you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for listening, as always. It's great chit-chatting with you all. Thanks. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep trooping.
Bye.
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 Bye.